All right, everyone. Anything else? What if they say no? Tell me what. Let's say, no, I don't really think this is good for me. I want to share it with my husband.
So when individuals say, and I get that actually quite a bit. That's why sometimes it's a 2-week process before I close a sale. For instance, I just closed the sale yesterday, and I met with this guy a week and a half ago. And I just say, if they say, I always give them the opportunity to get enrolled immediately, get protected immediately. And if they say, well, I want to think about it, I always say, okay, great, I totally understand that. Matter of fact, I love when spouses are in agreement on the service. I would love to speak with your husband and educate him on the service as well. Or if you don't mind, can I follow up with you by 5 p.m. tomorrow? Will you have a chance to speak with him before then? And they'll either say yes or no, or will you give me through the rest of the weekend? Okay, great, absolutely, through the rest of the weekend. I will call you Monday around 10 o'clock. Will you be available then? So it's a clear next step. It's not like, okay, well, I'll just give you a shout sometime next week, and where you end up missing them, and then you're playing phone tag, and then you're playing catch up, and then it's 4 weeks later, and then all of a sudden they're just not as interested, or so on and so forth. So that's what I say when you have a clear next step, a clear objective. And another thing is when I meet with people, like for instance, Ms. Hoffman, she said that she has 20 employees. Well, I typically, by the end of the presentation, before I, obviously get the family protected, I get the family protected first, but then I say, hey, by the way, did you know that you can offer this as a voluntary benefit for your employees? Can you imagine how excited that they would be to get empowered with a will and this type of protection? Here's the process. And so in the presentation, you're always thinking about the things that they say. You're listening for different connections that they have. And that's why building rapport in the beginning, I didn't spend a whole lot of time on that, but when I meet with people, I spend 10, 15 minutes in the beginning getting to know them, their family, their goals, their business, like all of that, so I can best present to them and then hear about the best clear next steps for them. So
you relate back to them. You get to know me and all, like my husband's driving issues with our insurance. You would really hone in on that.
Yeah, like for instance,
trouble with my landlord in my business, or home construction that went really bad, and they did bad work, and they just left us with a terrible job, and yet they're taking us to collections to pay them. You would help.
Yes.
All those kind of things.
For instance, I met with a young guy yesterday who is in his late 20s, and when I got to the moving traffic violation representation, I said, you're probably going to love this part. And he started smiling before I even talked about it. He was like, oh, yeah. So I could just, because I knew he was a younger guy, he was, in a fraternity at one point, I just kind of knew that that would be a powerful portion of the service for him.
So the statement, you're going to love this part, or you're setting yourself up for a successful presentation. You're always saying positive words inside of your presentation.
Yeah, and I wrote a couple of things down for all of you out there. I try to go into every presentation with not a salesy focus, but a consultant mindset. Like, you are their consultant, just like someone would consult them on their finances or their insurances, different things like that. I don't want to come across as a pushy salesperson, but to really just educate them, consult them on protection that they deserve to have, need to have, are truly asking for, just don't really fully know how much they need it. And so another thing real quick is being confident, walking into every presentation confident, knowing that you have the ability to really truly help them worry less and live more. And my goal, and sometimes I'll even say this depending on how the conversation is going, I sometimes say my goal is not to decide for you if this protection is for you, but to educate you on why so many families these days are adding our service to their protection, to protect their family with, because it truly is powerful. Ultimately, though, Ms. Hoffman, it's up to you. It's your money. It's your investment, and I want you to fully believe in the investment that you're making in this service. And so, but being confident, taking a position of authority is important because this is a powerful thing that we do.
So I'd say, Brielle, you're focusing on helping them KNOW. You're not focusing on that they might say NO.
Yeah.
So you're helping them. Your focus is to help them know, not that they'll say no.
Absolutely. And I kind of got a little discouraged yesterday because I had made a couple phone calls with, referrals and stuff like that, and people oftentimes think they KNOW. And a cool story is Jill Boyd here in the Knoxville area. She protected a family pretty recently, and she protected a family after someone, because this family she protected, this mom, had been in a networking group with a Legal Shield person for like over a year and a half. And for a year and a half, still had no idea what we do or what our membership does. And so Jill sat down and did a consumer folder presentation, and she said, oh my gosh. She said, finally, I understand what you guys do. She signed up. She's a member, hopefully coming on as a broker. So really cool. It's important to educate because most people just don't simply KNOW.
That's my next question to you, Brielle. When you go out to the marketplace, explain the simple approach to a small business, a broker, an employee benefits, an HR director, a family, an individual with the consumer folder.
I use the consumer folder for everything because whether you're talking to a business owner and want to protect his business and his employees, your goal is to ultimately protect the business owner's family too. And the thing is, you want him to buy into the service because if he buys into it, if he believes in it, well, he's going to be your number one advocate for that service for his employees. For instance, another quick example. I went to a networking. We were going to work with a construction company to enroll these services as a voluntary benefit. Well, it didn't turn out as great as we thought, and because what happened was there wasn't as much. We were working with one of their employees, the HR person, not the company owner. So the company owner didn't really have a whole lot of buy-in because he didn't fully know the power of it for his employees. Well, a few months later, so we ended up not doing the enrollment. A few months later, I go to a networking group where he's the president of this networking group. One of the people in the group does a presentation on, he's one of our brokers here, he does a presentation on identity theft protection, and basically says, hey, this is so valuable, this is so powerful for you all to know and understand. And I was there visiting the group, and so I did my 60-second, and I talked about identity theft. And so anyway, I called this company owner of this construction company afterward, and I just said, hey, John, it was great seeing you this morning. I just want to follow up with you based off of what you heard this morning. I think that after this presentation this morning, you would agree that identity theft protection is important for your employees. And he was like, yeah, absolutely. And so now he's like, we got to get you guys in right away. So that just shows you the power of a company owner having buy-in. And that's why them having a consumer folder presentation, understanding what their employees get is important. So every presentation I always have the consumer folder with me.
Now, those are the 4 divisions, but let's talk about recruiting. Is this something that you use when you're recruiting?
Yes, absolutely. And my goal, and I think that you all would say this out there too, is that you want to recruit a satisfied customer. And so it's really interesting to me when I do a consumer folder presentation when an individual can see value in it for themselves, they see value in it for other people. And so I've actually had 2 new team members, phenomenal leaders here in the Knoxville market, Rob Sword and then Leslie Smith and Randy Swain. Great leaders, and that's how they saw value in the service for themselves too, and they asked, is there a way that we can make this a business because we see value in it for other people? And so I don't lead with the opportunity. I don't meet with someone and say, hey, you want to make a lot of money? I say, hey, here's a valuable service that I believe will make a difference for your family, so on and so forth.
And what about referrals? How do you move into referrals?
My goal, and I hope that all of you have that sheet that talks about the number of businesses in your area, the number of families in your area, the number of teenage drivers, and households in the area, because that kind of keeps you going. At the end of the presentation, I typically say, thank you so much for your time. And if you don't mind, I want to just ask you one more quick question. My goal is very simple. My goal is to be the Legal Shield person in the Knoxville area and to protect as many families as possible. And Ms. Hoffman, I know that you see value in the service, and if you see value in it for you and your family, I think you'd see value in it for your friends as well. Off the top of your mind, can you think of some friends and family of yours that you wouldn't mind referring me to? I'd love to educate them on these services as well. And so I just simply go into the referrals and I ask for them, and I kind of give them a second. I kind of look down at the paper, pull the paper out, and just assume that they're going to start kind of jotting off some names. And sometimes they do, sometimes they don't. So it kind of just depends. But always asking for referrals based off of your mission is absolutely critical. So.
All right. We'll pass it back to you, John, and open it up for questions.
All right. Great job. And just a couple of things I think everybody would agree just listening in. You know, you could hear through the phone. Brielle was engaging. Her energy was strong. You could hear laughter. You know, she talked about fun. You could hear her leading. You know, leading the prospect in the direction that she wanted the prospect to go. You know, confident, a little bit of boldness. You know, and so give thought to that. And a lot of times in the tell me, the show me, and the let me, the grow me. A lot of times what I would encourage too is, you know, while you're practicing your presentation, tape it so that you can hear, you know, the intonation in your voice. You can hear the energy in your voice. You know, that little plan, do, review, that little refining and advancing goes a long, long ways when it comes to an understanding of how you look, how you sound, and where that energy level is. So with that, great job, Brielle. Great job, Darcy. And let's see. If you'll put,
John, I want one more thing before we go. Brielle, the company interviewed Brielle, and one of the questions they interviewed when she was flown down to Dallas, which I think it's important to ask, they said to her, are you successful because you have successful parents? And a lot of people will say, God, you know, Brielle is just successful because of her parents. But I love the answer about her success is really, well, just give the answer you gave to Legal Shield.
It was a very interesting question, and my response was the same exact training and coaching that my parents have given me. They've given all of you out there, and that's how they coach and develop their team. And so I've gotten no different, you know, training or development. It comes down to my daily choices, my daily habits, the habits workbook. I mean, my parents don't hold my hand. They don't say, hey, have you done your presentations today? They're not on my back. They're not babysitting me. But I think back to April, my first month, when I was doing, you know, my presentations, and I did probably 5, hoping all 5 of those would show up or turn out to be sales. I did what was called the plan, do, review. And so that plan, do, review set me up for the success I'm experiencing today, because after every single presentation is when they would evaluate it with me. They would, okay, did you did you think about this? Did you ask for referrals? Did you say this? And I said, no, oh my gosh. And so I would get better every time. And my PDA is kind of still the backbone of my business, and hopefully yours out there too, that personal daily achievement, knowing the amount of presentations that you have, you know, booked, you know, the amount of people you're seeing on a weekly basis, because that's going to lead to your end goal, you know, that $100,000 ring or the amount of families you want to protect, so on and so forth. So all that to say, my parents haven't handheld me. They've empowered me, hopefully like we're empowering you out there to go and make a difference that you're called to make with the gifts and the abilities that God has given you.
So everyone has to start somewhere, and it was very difficult for her to start. She did not like it. She did not like the process of growing and getting uncomfortable, but now she's created a new normal, and that's the key. So back to you, John.
All right. Fantastic. And let's see. If you'll raise your hand, that way we'll come out and call on you if you have a question, an aha moment, anything that you'd like to comment or move forward on. Let's go out to Brenda Lafredo real quick, and we'll hear from one of our Millionaire Club members on any quick thoughts or comments that she might have. Brenda?
Thank you, Mr. Hoffman, and great job, Brielle. I just wanted to say to everyone that when we were introduced to this process and started using it, it really raised my closing ratio tremendously. And I even started using it for everything, guys. I use it even for my employee benefit enrollments. And when I did that, my enrollments went up to about 85%. I think it's great because it does two things. It's very visual for the customer, and it allows you to have that interaction that Brielle and Darcy demonstrated this much, which I think is so important. It helps you, people not be sold by you, but sort of sell themselves when they start to realize where they could use it and how they felt when they were mistreated and so forth. And so it is a great tool. I even use this tool when I see small business owners, individuals, employee benefit groups, decision makers, brokers. It doesn't matter. I use it for everything. So I just encourage everyone to put your hands on it and put it to work because it really works. Back to you, Ms.
Brenda,
Hoffman.
can I just say something? Thank you so much. You said something important. Up your visual, it's visual, and you use it as a multi-divisional tool. It doesn't matter where you're at. You can grab the consumer folder with a broker, with a recruit, with everything, and be successful in translating our story. But if you could write this down, our goal is to present so that they want to buy. We don't sell for them to buy. We present. And Brenda, you just said it. It is so compelling that by the end of it, it leads them to want to get the service. So you never have to push or sell. You literally educate and present. And the tool does the work. Your passion does the work, but you're not selling. Do not try to sell.
And if we can keep the background noise down, great. And I tell you what an exciting call, man. These calls are so smoking hot, it's unbelievable. Also, just jot this down. I think a lot of people don't realize what an amazing tool that the membership is. And they think of a sizzle call or a CD, or they think of an event as a Sunday conference call, a three-way as a possible tool. To me, the greatest tool we've got is this value proposition we're delivering to families, businesses, employee benefits, insurance brokers throughout North America. And Brenda, great job. Let's go, and we certainly, Brenda, look forward to seeing you and the team out there. Let's go to, in Phoenix here shortly, but let's go to Brandon Dawson. Real quick, Brandon, fire away, sir.
Hello. Good morning, Mr. Hoffman. Can you hear me?
Sure can, sir.
Okay, thank you. Thank you for taking the time to invest in us and in the team. I know you do that from your heart. Quick question. After you do the consumer presentation, let's say if you initially approached the person whom you met at a networking event, and you shared the family plan, and this seems more directed, so it can be directed towards small businesses and towards groups, but you're really speaking with them as an individual and having them consider it's of value to their family. At what point at the end of the presentation, if they are a business owner, will you introduce the small business plan, and do you set up a second appointment to give the details of the small business plan to them if they don't have the time?
Well, I mean, you've got to gauge in your spirit and your gut what the situation looks like. But if I'm talking about the family plan and I find out that the individual is a business owner, I'm definitely going to find a way to segue, or I'm going to find a way to move over to how we are providing services to 50,000 companies, out there, small business owners. I'm going to find a way to segue. If I've got time to highlight a few things right there, I'll do it. If it requires another appointment, I'll do it. If it requires me forwarding him 4 or 5 bullet points on the business plan and the benefits that can be available to him for $2.50 a day, $75 a month, I'll do it. Whatever it takes, I'm going to find a way to get the benefits to him, because we want to see him last 5, 10, 15, 20 years. We want to see him compete against his competition that's been in business longer, and we want to see him have that protection. So absolutely.
Hey, Brandon, real quick.
Thank you.
Brandon, this is Brielle.
Hey.
Hey,
Morning.
part of the planning for success is understanding their win. And so my goal, so when I meet somebody at a networking event and I get their business card, I'm going to do research on their company. So I'm going to pull up their website. I'm going to look at if they have a team of people. You can find out a lot about the company before your meeting. So you go into that meeting with a business plan proposal, with a consumer folder, with a voluntary benefit information. So you're equipped if the conversation leads there, actually you're the leader, so you lead it there based off of what you know about the individual. And so that's why it's important that you don't just treat every person the same when it comes to the consumer folder presentation. You use it all the time, but you have to know your audience before you go into the presentation so you can best equip them with the resources that we have available to empower them as a business owner, as an employer, as a family. That's critical. So do your research on the front end to know your audience to best equip them.
And you also remember Brielle. Okay, thanks, Brandon. You also remember Brielle's first question to Darcy. So tell me a little bit more about your business. How long have you been in business? She was engaging. Brielle was asking questions and then delivering benefits around, the interests of the party she's talking to. Let's go out to the Dallas-Fort Worth area. Another six-figure ring earner, great leader, dear friend, Deb Rotten. Deb, go ahead.
Good morning. I just want to thank you, Brielle. You were just wonderful, and you can hear the passion, and that passion comes from really believing that this product is going to change people's lives, and it's true. I love what you said, John, about all the tools. The best tool we have is the product, and if we understand that we've got to change people's lives, that we can change people's lives with this product, they'll hear that and believe it. And I thank you so much for Darcy for teaching us what Pele did, and the visualization before we go in, because I think we live in such a world where even though all of us are into personal development, we're just always surrounded by all of the to-dos and all of the negative stuff. And so just to take a moment and close our eyes and picture fun in Legal Shield, because we have a lot of fun, and remembering our successes so that when we go in, we can see how we're protecting that person, and it's a win. And then I thank you for sharing about the referrals, because I was in Louisville recently with John Drennan and his group, and I met a guy on the airplane talking about reaching out and touching people that are, in your space. Ended up doing a presentation, taking them to John's luncheon in Louisville, and I got a referral from them, and he was a gentleman here in Dallas. And so I met with him yesterday, and at 11 o'clock at night, after he'd done all this research, he texted me how excited he is, and he has a radio show and just the potential he sees. And so had I not opened my mouth to that person on the airplane, brought them to a luncheon in Louisville, I would not have met Tom. And so just the power of understanding that what we have is so important. Brielle, you're just so awesome. Thank you so much for your spirit, and thank you, John and Darcy. Back to you guys.
Thanks, Deb. Appreciate it. And, just a quick thought in respect to what, Deb's sharing here. When I read the greatest personal development book of all time, the Bible, I don't just read it. I take Scripture and I meditate on it so that I can apply it to, what God has purposed in my life. And a lot of times we hear that, quote, see it, believe it, achieve it. And, I liked what Darcy really shared with everybody. Pele, it's not just a see it, believe it, achieve it kind of thing. Do you really understand the see it, take some time, believe it, and then just simply go out and achieve it? And I thought that was a great visual, whether it's Pele, whether it's Jack Nicklaus, or whether it's someone like ourselves in the business that we're in. So, Deb, appreciate it. Great stuff. Real quick, Pennsylvania. Let's go up to the Philly market.
John?
Yeah?
Brielle's going to explain this sheet because this is very important.
Okay, then we'll go to Dave Hughes real quick, and then we'll go up to Marlene and Marv. So, all right, hold on, guys. Brielle,
I'll make it real quick. This is kind of the in front of my presentation binder. It just reminds me of the importance of seeing people telling the story. And if I ever get a no, I always see it as a they don't KNOW. and they always stay in my pipeline because some people, get the membership a month later, 2 months later, just you never know. But whenever you do get a no, you can just look at these numbers and remember, wow, I have a whole lot more people to see, a whole lot more yeses to get. So.
Is this what you show when you go for the referrals?
Yeah,
my goal and not so?
And at times when I'm asking for referrals, I'll show them this piece of paper. Here's my goals. These are the number of people that I'm trying to reach. And I kind of laugh sometimes. I know it seems like a lofty goal, but you know what? I'm going for it. If you don't mind helping me and supporting me in this goal, that would be great. Who do you know that could use protection? Back to you, Dan.
Yeah, good. And one other thing that I do in that position too is when I get the referral sheet out, if I see that they're not moving to writing referrals down, I'll look at them and I'll say, you know what, Mr. or Mrs. Prospect, let me ask you a question. Was there anything that I did in this presentation that seemed to be of a high pressure or hard close? They always say no. I say, great. It was more educational, informative, correct? Yes. You saw value, correct? Yes. Well, I just wanted to ask that because my approach would be the exact same way to the referrals that you give me. Informative and educational so that we can alleviate the stresses of people's life like we did with you. Would you give consideration to giving me 5 names? Great. So lead them. You're going to give direction. You're going to lead them in the buying process, the referral process. David Hughes, let's go out to you, sir.
Good morning, everyone. Great webinar, great presentation, Brielle. One of the things I wanted to just compliment really quickly was a lot of the more subtle things Brielle did in the presentation. One of the things they teach you in professional selling is the best way to handle an objection is in your presentation before it ever comes up. And there were several times that Brielle did that with questions. The client hadn't said anything negative, hadn't brought up this objection yet, but she knows it's a common one. So just as an example, she said, would you agree that if you have a real estate issue, it makes sense to speak to a real estate attorney about that? Now, if the person is accepting that concept, they can't come back at the end and tell you that, well, I already have an attorney, because that's obviously only one particular focus. So there are lots of different areas where she did things like that. I loved how you built value in the identity theft portion just by getting a commitment on, as a credit report, is that a valuable tool? Is that important to make sure, that that's accurate and that's beneficial? So I'll be playing it back again to see what else I can catch, and thanks very much.
Repetition's the mother of skill. I'd be playing it again too, and that's why our experiences are so critical, and the journey's always better than the destination. Thanks, Dave. Appreciate that. Let's go to Marlene Corbett. Marlene, go ahead.
That was a great conference call. Thank you.
Oh, Marlene, you're welcome. Thanks for joining us this morning. Let's go back up to the Philadelphia area. Mr. Marv Worthy. Marv?
Brielle, what an outstanding job. You continue to amaze me. I appreciate you so much. A few things I agree with without question, that all the success I've had is because 3 things have always been in place. 1, that you get the buy-in from the owner. 2, always use a consumer folder. And 3, you got to know their win. How do I identify the win? When I walk into an organization, I first find out what their mission statement is. Then I find out, well, I make the connection between their mission and our mission. When I introduce that concept in the very beginning and establish a report in the beginning in the way that Brielle done so magnificently, is when I've had the most success. I will say this to everyone. When you're doing a group enrollment, you shouldn't use anything else but the consumer folder. My closing rate in a group with the consumer folder compared to anything else has absolutely no comparison. You're talking about 85, 90% close when you use the consumer folder, provided you've done those 3 things I mentioned in the beginning: the buy-in from the owner, the fact that you understand the mission, you understand what the win is, and lastly, and what I love about Brielle, she is true to what she says. It is a mission, not just a commission. And so for me, it really is about the whole idea of deference. In that appointment, I willfully submit my wills and wishes for the wills and wishes of the client. And so, Brielle, thank you so much for what you poured into us this morning. I really appreciate it. Thank you so much.
Thanks, Marv. Appreciate the comments. We're going to wrap up real quick with Amy Galando, and then we'll get a couple closing comments from Bob Cohen since we're closing on the hour. So, Amy, Great to have you. Go ahead.
Good morning. Thank you, and thank you so much, Brielle. You're fantastic. I did send you a question, but I'm going to go ahead and share it anyway. This training is priceless. Can't tell you how thankful I am. I struggle with memory due to fibromyalgia, and the folder will keep me in line. I have a lot of passion. It will give my focus. It'll keep it lined up with what I'm supposed to be doing, and it'll give me eyes view to keep me focused. And I do thank you. I do appreciate you, and God bless everyone. Thank you. Back to you, John.
Oh, great, Amy. We appreciate that. Amy, something that you brought up, too, and I don't know if it was mentioned, maybe I missed it, but the person that you're presenting to, if they become interested in the opportunity, are going to realize the simplicity of the selling process, and they're going to be able to see themselves doing what you're doing. So this is a very duplicatable process, and we all know duplication is the power to wealth. Let's wrap up with a tremendous leader who's just finishing a West Coast travel schedule, setting the stage for Darcy and I as we head that way, Mr. Bob Cohen.
Oh, thank you so much. Fantastic training, definitely to be listened to and shared, with your associates. And real quick, let me just share some hard examples that we've been out here in the field. We just brought on a brand new insurance broker, extremely coachable, just an incredible guy that researched all the identity theft products out there, and who came up on top, Legal Shield Identity Theft Service. And really, really quick, we met with one of his doctors last week. Doctor has 4 offices, and exactly what we're sharing here: tell me, show me, let me, grow me. Last week, Bob did the presentations. We sat down, we used the consumer folder. What did we do? What was our results? Well, first office, 3 out of 4 signed up. Second office, 3 out of 3 signed up. Third office, 2 out of 2 signed up. Okay, and that was me doing it. And then we did a plan, do, and I like what Miss Debbie George has added. We did a plan, do, improve. Okay, and we talked about each time, what went right, what can we improve and such. Yesterday, we actually finished up our presentations. We met with the 4th office. We had 6 employees, and all 6 signed up. And I got to just share the reason why this happened. Well, let me back up. Actually, Bob actually did the presentation yesterday. Now it's time for him to, I let him do it, and then I was there to just kind of, add a couple things here and there, but he did a great job. And look at his results. He got 6 out of 6. Now, why was that possible? Because we followed exactly what we're learning here today. This consumer folder presentation, we shared stories. I have a separate little folder where I keep a sample letter from the attorneys. I have a sample motor vehicle ticket, situation. We actually show the Legal Shield member pack. What does the will questionnaire look like? I actually show what the cards look like. I'm very assumptive. When you sign up today, this is what you're going to get in the mail. You're going to have your cards. You're going to have access to the attorneys 24/7. I'm actually showing them, tangible what this service is, because this is an intangible, folks. And the beauty of now, show and tell, just like when we were kids, is now they can actually see it, they can touch it, they can feel it. Finally, we end up with identity theft, and we show a sample medical identity theft story. And I believe all of these are available there over at the Shield Nation. When people go through our training module there, you'll see samples of these that I'm sharing right now that you could absolutely print out and include with your presentation. So that was just a perfect example here, folks. This consumer folder is it. It took us years to develop, with everyone's I've never seen somebody fill out as many boxes. This guy was probably 98% of them were filled out. He even had stars in the margin there. Oh my God, this one, this one, this one. And that's the beauty of this, folks, is that that first page now gives you your prospect's hot button. And then with that information, now when you go into your presentation, what was his hot buttons? Well, he has 4 children, he has no will, and it turned out he just paid $165 to have another attorney write a letter. And he was pretty chapped about that. He was like, that's crazy. And lo and behold, at the very end, folks, all I simply did was I opened up the presentation, and I make a joke out of this. I go, well, here's my big close. What did you like best? And then I zip it up, okay? And whatever the prospect says, I say, absolutely, isn't that the best part? Well, let's go ahead and get you started. And I have my enrollment form right in front of me here, and we start filling it out. And sure enough, Scott here said, you know, let me try it out. Let me just see if it's all that you're saying. Let me start out with the personal plan first. I'm like, Scott, absolutely. We want you to kick the tires. And I always remind people, this is month to month, okay? No one wants to get into a long-term commitment, especially with these crazy cell phones and all that. So please make sure that's part of your repertoire. You're reminding people it's month to month. I literally turn over the enrollment form. I go, here's the fine print. There is none. Okay, we make a joke out of it. And we're just having fun again. We're just showing people how what a no-brainer, you know, $29.90, about $1 a day, how what a no-brainer this service is. So I hope that helped. We're having fun out here, and can't wait to the Hoffmans hit the West Coast. I know you guys are going to have some great appointments. Thanks a lot.
I appreciate it. Thanks for all you do. And I don't want to leave Joan Gilchrist hanging by any means because I just passed by her. But, Joan, any quick final comments from you, dear?
Can you hear me, Mr. Hoffman?
We sure can. Go ahead.
Okay, great. No, I had sent a question online because I didn't know if the phone was working for me. But I just had a question regarding the consumer folder. Is that something that you would use at a small luncheon without any, say, audio-visual equipment?
As a you're doing a presentation at a luncheon regarding the membership?
Yes.
Oh, absolutely. Like Marv Worthy said, he uses it at all his, you know, group enrollments. We use it in every situation we're in. So absolutely.
Okay, great. Thank you.
All right, fantastic. What a great call. Thanks, Darcy. Thanks, Brielle. Thanks for all the comments. Glad you guys could join in again in an amazing Friday morning webinar. Make sure those that couldn't make it, that might be working, that you get them. There's a recorded version. It will be up today that they can go in and see it after hours tonight or this weekend. Make sure that you get your team plugged into this. And let's take advantage of the homework that Darcy laid out. 5 presentations, all right, this week with the consumer folder, and we look forward to your story next week as we dial in from Vancouver, British Columbia. Be blessed, everybody. Let's close February, make it a strong month. Bye-bye.